welcome Ms. Lori Montenegro.
Wow, these lights are very bright. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon to you all. A few minutes ago, they said an applause for Secretary Solis, and I was standing there, and this gentleman saw me, and I said, no, I'm not her. Anyway, it's such a pleasure to be here, and I was listening to Secretary Solis, and what a wonderful, wonderful way to really start this program off of speaking to Latina pioneers. I've spent past 30 minutes talking to some very bright women that you're going to be hearing from in a few minutes. And I don't know, they said they needed a moderator. I don't think I'll be saying much. I think they'll be taking over the conversation. It really is an honor for me to be here today celebrating with CHCI their 35th year of impact. The leadership model that this organization has put together is truly impressive. Their successes that they have had are just wonderful. And if anything, they are a testament, a tribute to the men and women who helped found this organization back in 1978. I am, again, pleased to be here. Each of the three panelists that we will be hearing from today have very touching personal stories and have just a wonderful professional successes that they will be sharing with us today. But before we go on, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how the program is going to be laid out. I know there are a lot of you here who are probably tweeting and are on Facebook, and so I want to let you know that CHCI has gone social and that we are streamlining this on the CHCI Facebook page. So if you have friends out there who you told you were coming to this luncheon and they have questions, well, please contact them and tell them that they can submit questions through Facebook. But I want to just go ahead and get started right away. Let me see here. I want to make sure I don't make any mistakes in introducing these ladies because really, really, really they have some wonderful successes. And you have to forgive me because for some reason today, yo estoy pensando en español, which is really not usual for me. So if you see I'm getting stuck for words, just shout out if you think you know what the word is in English, por favor. And I see, is that Congressman Reyes I see there? Go Redskins. Ahí no se me olvidó el inglés. The first person that I'd like to introduce is Congresswoman Roybal-Allard. The Congresswoman has a wonderful story. She is one of the first Mexican-American woman elected to Congress and has proudly represented the communities of her Southeast Los Angeles district for almost 20 years. 7 years later, she became the first woman to serve as chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Congresswoman Roybal-Allard's father was one of the founding chairs of CHCI, and she has honored his commitment to this organization through her very hard work. So please help me to welcome Congresswoman Roybal-Allard to the stage. Next, we have Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. Well, she is the ranking member of the House Small Business Committee and a senior member of the Financial Services Committee. She has made history several times during her tenure in Congress. In 1992, she was the first Puerto Rican woman elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Then in 2006, she was named chair of the House Small Business Committee, making her the first Latina to chair a full congressional committee. Bienvenida, Congresista Nydia Velázquez. And finally, this is one of my favorite titles, and I think you all are going to agree with me. To be able to say Ambassador Mari Carmen Aponte.
Yeah!
The Honorable Maria Carmen Aponte was sworn in as Ambassador of El Salvador on September 22nd, 2010. And before assuming the position of U.S. Ambassador to El Salvador, she worked as an attorney and consultant with Aponte Consulting and was the executive director of the Puerto Rican Federal Affairs Administration. And prior to that, she practiced law in Washington, D.C. for nearly 20 years. She now has the distinction of being the first Puerto Rican woman to serve as a U.S. ambassador. Bienvenida. Welcome, Maria Carmen Aponte.
Thank you.
So we're here sitting down. We're going to get to this quickly because you know they've already tried to tell us that we have to shorten our remarks and so forth. And I was like, good luck with these ladies. And
she's right.
you should have seen the faces they made when we've talked about time. And I just wanted to bring this up. This is the first time, really, that I have had the opportunity to actually talk to all three of you without, chasing you down with a microphone. So it indeed is a pleasure to be here. I wanted to start with you, Congresswoman Roybal. Your father helped found this organization. And I wanted to ask you a little bit personally, how was it growing up in a home with your dad, and what were some of the things that he instilled in you?
Well, actually, I was 22 years old when my father became a member of Congress. So much of what impacted my life was prior to that. Both my mother and father came from very poor families. When I was born, it was a working class family. Neither my mother or father have a college degree. And that was one of the reasons I think that my father instilled in us the importance of education and made sure that his daughters and my brother, got an education. And I'm talking back in the 50s. And my father was made fun of, actually, by members of the family and by members of the community for sending his daughters to college because they said he was wasting his money and that daughters were only going to get married and have babies. But in spite of that, my father, as I said, understanding the importance of education, made sure that we got a college education and also worked very hard to make sure that others also in the community had the opportunity to go to college.
I'm curious, what would your father respond?
What my father would respond?
When they said that he was wasting his money.
Well, I wasn't actually, there to hear what he said, but I know what he told us was that an education was the only thing of value that he would be able to give me and my sister and my brother, and that it was something that could never be taken away from us, and that it was an opportunity for us to develop whatever talents we had and to be able to not only be an example to our family when we got married and had a family, but also to be able to be in a better position to contribute to our community.
Nydia, almost the same question. In your case, it was a family with hard work. They had sacrifices. How did your father's political involvement impact you?
Well, let me just say first that I come from a very poor family in Puerto Rico. We were 9 children. I have a twin sister. My father was a sugarcane cutter, sugarcane worker. And, but with he was so smart, very well-spoken. When his mother died, he lied to get a job in the sugarcane fields. My father was 13 or 14 years old, and back then he was supposed to be, I believe, 16. And so he lied. He became, the man in the family. And, he became an organizer. He was an activist by nature. And I grew up watching him. Whenever he saw wrong, he always questioned it. And that I learned from him by watching him. But one thing that I remembered was that watching my father come home so sweaty and tired, but always asking all of us if we had done our homework in school. And it was una cantaleta every weekend because he was always saying to us, look, we are poor, but the only thing that I could leave you is education. And I made that connection. And I always wanted to do the homework. I always wanted to get straight A's because I knew that would make him happy. And my mother was struggling, raising 9 children, plus los hermanos de ella en medio mundo por ahí para abajo. It was tough. Poverty is tough. But he instilled in me the value of education, and I connected the dot. I knew that in order to break that cycle of poverty, I needed to succeed in school, and I wanted to do well in school because I knew that will make them happy, and that was the only way for me to get a scholarship. And then I graduated when I was 16 years old from high school and went to the University of Puerto Rico with a full scholarship. And then, again, I finished my bachelor degrees in only 3 years. And then I went to New York University with a full scholarship. So I did, and I know that there is a role for government to play to help those most vulnerable. And so my father became from a sugarcane worker to an organizer, from an organizer to a political activist. And in Puerto Rico, politics is a sport. And so I grew up watching all those rallies, political rallies, and my father, without knowing it, he had such a commitment to public service, helping all la gente del barrio, to deal with their own issues. And all the politicians always came to my house, and we have these big rallies. So that's how I learned how to get involved and how not to keep my mouth shut.
And I have to say, Congresista, I think all of us in this room hemos escuchado la cantaleta. Ambassador, you have really gone from law and advocacy and now international relations. Could you give us an idea? Maybe there's a young lady out here who's wondering, what am I going to do? At what point did you know that you wanted to have a career in law and that you would go to advocacy? Was there a turning point?
I think it had a lot to do with my family. And as I hear both congresswomen talk about their fathers and the decisive role that their fathers played in their life, so did my father, who not only instilled in me that there was a need and a necessity to be educated, but just as important, I needed to give back. Social conscience was something that was instilled in both my sister and I at the dining room table every night. What have you done for others? What is it that you did today? So it became second nature to me. And it was very clear to me very early on that public service was something that I was going to have to do at some point in my life. I didn't know it was going to be so tough getting through a confirmation process. But I knew that I needed to go through it and that I needed to do well, not only for me, but for those Latinas who came behind me. Because I know that if I didn't go through this, the doors were going to be shut. Ah, no, pero mira, que ella se dio por vencida. No había forma. And I also had the inspiration of these women who always, Lucille and Nydia have always been with me. And it is the sisterhood that has gotten me over and gotten me out of when it was very dark and very deep. I knew that if I was persistent, I was going to make it. So I thank them, and all of you inspire me as well, because I knew that I couldn't let any of you down. So here I am.
One of the things, and I don't want to share any of the secrets of what we were talking backstage, but you said something very interesting, and without naming names, you said that at one point somebody asked you, well, what about you? And what more are you going to be doing? And how can you, what else are you going to be doing in your career? And you actually sat there and looked at that person and said, me? And they said, sí, tú. So how does that play a role in all of this? Do you keep the pressure on each other? Is that That's one of the things that you find that pushes you along?
Well, I think what helps to push me, and I think that the rest of us, is the community that we represent. When we go back home and we talk to our constituents and we see their struggles, and we have this understanding of what we do here in Washington impacts their everyday lives. And that's what keeps us going, is our commitment to our community. And that is something that was modeled for me by my father. He was the first Latino elected to the Los Angeles City Council in 1949. And it was a time when there was, open, rampant discrimination, particularly against Mexicans in Los Angeles. And when he got elected, the political power base made it very clear that they were not happy that a Mexican was now a member of the city council. So he and my mother and our family were often belittled and made fun of in public. And my father actually had a lot of threats against his life when he was fighting police brutality. We had our phones tapped, and as children, we actually had safe houses from our house to where our school was, and we were told that if a policeman stopped us, or if anybody stopped and said they were the police, that we were supposed to run to the safe house, because at that time, because he was fighting police brutality against our community, there were a lot of threats and things that they were concerned of, not only about my father and my mother's life, but also about us. So against that background, and I think very similar to what Nydia and Buddy was talking about, you'll see this common thread that goes along our experience, not only in terms of education, but also of seeing our parents and our mother. Our mother was, my mother was the glue that held our family together. And you'll see that common thread of watching our parents model for us our values and our commitment to giving back to our community.
So in a time, in an era where a lot of people don't like to feel pressured, would you say that pressure then is good? And when you see the kinds of things that she's describing that she actually had to live through, she could have shied away from that and said, I don't want that kind of a life. I want to just be at home and be safe. Pressure then is good and has played a role in what your successes have been?
Yes. Look, our positions have not been handed out to us. We Latinos, but especially Latinas, we have to always fight for what we want. And 20 years ago, when I decided to run, I made the mistake of visiting the chairman of the Democratic Party in my county. And I came to see him, and I say, I want to inform you that I decided that I'm going to run for office, for Congress, and that I would like to get your support. And I say, how dare you come here to inform me that you're running? You have to ask permission, Yeah, it is for us, the democratic machine, to decide if you're going to be. I say, this is the democratic process in America. If you put an operation together and you want to run, you should run. So that chairman has been fighting me for 20 years. But if you have been reading the New York Times, yes, I will invite you to read the New York Times just recently. Anyway, so and gave me a primary that I just crushed them. But this is what is important for us.
She said
for
it.
us women, we cannot lose sight. And once we achieve a goal in terms of getting a position, we need to use it to empower other Latinas. And this is, we don't know how long we're going to be here. And so we have, look, I made it here, but there were other Latinas in New York, like Antonia Pantojas, you know, that paved the way for us to get here. And it is our responsibility to use our position to fight for Sonia Sotomayor or Mari Carmen Aponte, because we know that they are the most qualified, experienced females for the job, such as well as Hilda Solis. And we have to use those positions to make sure that, because remember, female Latinas, we don't have that network that the Boys Club have. And so we are working on it. And look, we are not envious. Yeah, you got it. Good for you. But now you join forces with us to help other Latinas and other Latinos to achieve positions of power and influence that will help the whole community.
Mari Carmen, Nydia habla de su experiencia. She speaks about her experience within the political realm. Do Latina women, are they still fighting in the sector that you're now in, which is international relations at the State Department? Is that still a struggle for Latina women who are underrepresented trying to get in and move up? Because it's not only to get in, it's to move up. Is that a challenge also?
Of course it is. Of course it is. But I've always loved challenges. And I have to say that one of the most important reasons that I am here today is this woman who called me in 2008, right after the election, and said, I see you moving, pushing everybody and their mother. How about you? I didn't know what to answer, so she said, ni me digas que voy pa' encima. And she did. So I am so fortunate to have this network of other women who fought for me and who has been enlarged as the fight got more serious and more protracted and more difficult. They were always there for me. As far as the State Department is concerned, there are only 3 Hispanic women ambassadors at a global level. Vilma Martinez in Argentina, Julissa Reynoso in Uruguay, and myself. Out of 220, oye, eso llora ante los ojos de Dios.
But how do we change that? And how do we change that?
Well, we need to promote. We need those of us who are in the positions that we're in, we need to make sure that we're very observant of all those who are coming up and to encourage other young women who are going in to take the foreign service and to keep at it. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. It doesn't matter how long it takes for the interview to come. Use the networks. Use us. There's now 3 of us. My goodness, tú sabes, como si fuéramos tantas, pero sabemos la revolución. And that's our commitment to you.
And it just takes one person. It really just takes one person. I think you wanted to add something.
But you see, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and other community-based organization, Hispanic community-based organization, has played an important role in bringing the kind of sensitivity to the administration and previous administration, but under this administration, we have done much better. We need to improve those numbers, and we have to keep doing the research, the data, and go and make our case. I forgot to mention that along the way, 20 years ago, when I decided to run, there was a man courageous enough, the only one, who supported me back home, and that was Congressman Jose Serrano.
Go ahead. I just want to make one more point and use this as an example of Latinas helping Latinas. I never thought of getting into political office until a Latina by the name of Gloria Molina, who is a supervisor in Los Angeles, actually came to me and asked me to run to replace her when she left the California State Legislature. If it were not for her opening that door and supporting me, I may not be in elected office today. So that's just another example of why it is so important for those of us who get into elected office, for those of us who gain positions of power, to help others to achieve as well.
Before the clock is ticking and they're already making their signals, but we're going to ignore them. I wanted to ask you, what would your father think of CHCI today?
Well, I think my father would be very, very excited about where CHCI is today. Not so much because it has become such a prominent organization nationally, but more because of the fact that his dream of having Latino children, young people, youth, come to Washington, D.C. to learn the policy-making process here in Washington, I think has far exceeded his dream. Because when he first came in 1962, there were no Latinos here in Washington. In fact, if you were here in Washington, many didn't even know what a Mexican-American was, and just assumed that you were from Mexico. Many times I was asked, well, what are you? And I'd say, well, a Mexican-American. And say, oh, how nice. How long have you been here from Mexico? And so I had to explain to them that, there are many of us. We were born here. We were,
and we're still doing some of that explaining.
We still are. But the point is that when he was here, he realized that among the interns and the fellows and the pages, there were no Latinos. And he understood that in order for the Latino community to be able to make a difference for it, young people had to learn and be a part of the policy-making process. And that's why he started, the CHCI and all these programs. But it was small at that time. So that's what I think he would be the most proud of. And I see Bob Garcia, right? Right there, who also was very instrumental in making CHCI what it is today.
Well, it was small then, but very large now. And that program that you're talking about with regards to internships, I have had the opportunity to speak to many of those students, many of them people who never even dreamed of coming to Washington, D.C. And through that program, that internship program CHCI sponsors, they're just doing wonderful, wonderful things. And a lot of those are young women. And we see our young women going to college more and more. And I'm wondering, what advice would you have for them? And if you have any concerns, because one thing is they get into college, then the objective is getting them to finish. That's right. And that is a challenge. And a lot of it is financial. Other times they're just discouraged. What advice do you give any young woman now who is entering college, and how does she accomplish her goals? Maria Carmen?
Well, persistence. Persistence. And that's why it's so important to have a president who understands student loans and who understands what it is that it takes to go through college, that it's not only brains, it's also financial wherewithal. I also think that the networks that the women provide to each other, in supporting each other, is also very important and need to be developed.
Nydia?
It just all these networks at the university, colleges, I was there, then I taught at the university, and I understood the important role that the type of student organization or mentoring, how effective it could be. But in terms of advising young Latinas, you gotta have, focus, determination, and when you feel that you are facing too many problems or obstacles, to know that you're not alone and that there are so many things out there. Go to your counselor, seek help from someone who is willing to help if they know that at that moment you need some help. There's always someone who is willing to give you a helping hand. It happened to me. Without that, I would have not been able. Look, I came to New York with no family. No family. I just make a phone call and call a friend who was with me in high school in el pueblo de Yabucoa. And he came to New York, and I asked him, he got married, and said, can I stay in your apartment for 2 or 3 weeks? And I remember the first time I made it to New York, and then the next day, I was in a train in the subway going to New School for Social Research, and when I saw all those buildings, high rises and all that, I'm like, my God, where am I? And it was like a cultural shock. And I got homesick, and I wanted to go home. But what happened? That a friend of my father signed with the University of Puerto Rico to sponsor the full scholarship. And if I failed, he would have had to pay back the university. So to me, I couldn't let that person down, nor my father. But it is always important. And for all of us who made it, we need to know that we can be so instrumental in so many young lives.
So it's a willingness to go ahead.
One more point. And that is when talking to young people, putting it in a long-term perspective. Because so often I have young people say, you know what, if I go to college, I have to work. It's going to take me 5, 6, 7 years to graduate. You know, and if you help them to understand that, you know, they're going to be 25, 30, 35, whatever, anyway. And the question I ask them, wouldn't you rather reach that age of 35, maybe even 40, and have that college degree and to realize your dreams and your ambitions than to turn 35 or 40 and have nothing? And when you help to put it in that long-term perspective, sometimes the light goes on and they realize exactly what has been said before, that determination, and no matter how long it takes, it's worth it in the end.
And that's great advice, especially in a society where we live, where everybody thinks it's almost like, you know, microwave type thing, popcorn, I call it. You know, they want popcorn magic, and it doesn't work that way. So in essence, what I hear you both saying is, you know, all of you saying is persistence, but also willing to ask for help. Not the pride, setting the pride aside. And then there's that role that the rest of us play in helping out young people, because sometimes it just takes maybe just one conversation, just some encouragement, and that's all that is needed. I want to ask if there's anyone out there who has any questions. Also on Facebook, if there are any questions, we're going to be going to that next. But Nydia, I wanted to touch with, you are very much involved with small business and with your, in your committee. I once did a story, and I was amazed at the number of Latina women who have small businesses in this nation. I don't think people really know.
Well, Latina-owned businesses is the fastest growing sector in our economy, but and they face a lot of challenges.
Such as?
Well, let's look at the economy, right? We have seen a contraction in the economy for the last few years. And the only sector where the economy is growing is the federal government spending. And so when you look at federal procurement practices, Latinas get less than 0.5% of federal contracting. And this is why in 2000, we passed my legislation to create a women procurement program that would allow for women-owned businesses to be able to compete for federal contracts among some of the industries where women are underrepresented, and that is telecommunications, is agriculture, is construction, is IT. And so we have to make sure that there is a level playing field so that those numbers are reflected in those contracting practices. The other big challenge for women in general, but for Hispanic women in particular, is access to capital. And we have seen a drop of 70% in lending for Hispanic women in this nation.
Thank you very much. We have a question here on Facebook, and I've neglected to tell you, there's a couple of microphones in the middle of the room where you can stand up, and there's a gentleman over there with a microphone if anybody has a question. I have to do this because I can barely see. But if you have a question, please feel free to go to them. We're going to go to a Facebook question here from Ruben. What were the biggest obstacles you had to overcome on your journey to success? So I would narrow that down to ask you, was there one particular incident in your lives that, depending on how you responded, could have meant success or failure for you?
Well, I just think being taken seriously as a woman and as a Latina, and having to prove that not only as a woman and Latina that we were willing and able, but that we were even capable of leadership.
Nydia? That was
hard we had to prove that.
Well, for me, it was poverty. Without the help of the government in Puerto Rico by providing full scholarship throughout my college, and then later on when I came to New York, without that type of help, I would have not been able to be here. This is why education is my passion, is one of my passions, and why we have to fight to make sure that in order for this country to remain competitive globally, education must play an important role. And the face of America is changing. It's more Latino, it's more blacks, and that's where the investment in terms of education has to go.
Embajadora, we've been asked to wrap up, pero quiero darle la última palabra, the last word for you.
For me, it was trying to break down the doors. As I was the first Puerto Rican woman admitted to practice law in Pennsylvania, nobody knew that I could even be a lawyer, so I was asked to take notes, get coffee, not giving interviews in law firms, and not allowing that to set me back, but having me knock and pull down those doors.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all three of you. I think great advice. Thank you. Thank you.
Somebody get in the middle. Get in the middle.
Relampaguear, el cielo está encapotado, vaqueros para el corral.
Please enjoy your lunch. Our program will resume shortly.
La noche se viene encima, procuren pronto llegar. Mañana en la madrugada comenzamos a labrar. Cucurrucucú, paloma, cucurrucucú. No llores, las piedras jamás. Paloma, ¿qué van a saber?
I think my answer to it is as soon as they serve the meals, they might want to start earlier than normal, just because that way they can't leave. They'll know the program's already started. All right, so just a little bit earlier than normal. We have 30 minutes for lunch normally. I might want to do 20.
ay mamá no puedo con ella. La mujer está en el suelo, ay mamá no puedo con ella. Me la llevo a la cabeza, ay mamá no puedo con ella. Es que no puedo con ella. Mamá no puedo con ella. Es que no puedo con ella. Mamá no puedo con ella. Muchacha, si tú no puedes con esa mucura de agua, pa' que te ayude a cargarla, muchacha, llama a San Pedro. Muchacha, si tú no puedes con esa mucura de agua, pa' que te ayude a cargarla, muchacha, llama a San Pedro. Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Mamá, mamá, no puedo con ella. Mamá, no puedo con ella. Muchacha, ¿quién te rompió tu mucurita de barro? Fue Pedro quien me ayudó, ¿pa' qué me hiciste llamarlo? Muchacha, ¿quién te rompió tu mucurita de barro? Fue Pedro quien me ayudó, ¿pa' qué me hiciste llamarlo? Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. No, no, no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Mamá, mamá, no puedo con ella. Mamá, no puedo con ella. No, no, no puedo con ella. Mamá, no puedo con ella. Es que no puedo con ella. Mamá, no puedo con ella. La vi volver con sus salidas rojas, maltrecha, moribunda, malherida. Su llanto reflejaba las derrotas de todos los fracasos de su vida. La vi volver del mundo de añoranza, vencida, sollozante y abatida. Sus ojos reflejaban la esperanza de que yo la quisiera todavía. La vi volver, mas no quise apenarla. Le hablé de todo, menos del pasado. No me sentí capaz para juzgarla, porque yo no estoy libre de pecado. La vi volver sangrando entre cadenas, su propia vida le tendió los lazos. La vi llorar como la Magdalena y arrepentida se entregó en mis brazos. La vi volver, mas no quise apenarla. Le hablé de todo, menos del pasado. No me sentí capaz para juzgarla, porque yo no estoy libre de pecado. La vi volver sangrando entre cadenas, su propia vida le tendió los lazos. La vi llorar está en el suelo, ay mamá, no puedo con ella. Me la llevo a la cabeza y mamá, no puedo con ella. La mucura está en el suelo, ay mamá, no puedo con ella. Me la llevo a la cabeza y mamá, no puedo con ella. Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Muchacha, si tú no puedes con esa mucura de agua, pa' que te ayude a cargarla, muchacha, llama a San Pedro. Muchacha, si tú no puedes con esa mucura de agua, pa' que te ayude a cargarla, muchacha, llama a San Pedro. Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Mamá, mamá, no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Muchacha, ¿quién te rompió tu mucurita de barro? Fue Pedro quien me ayudó, ¿pa' qué me hiciste llamarlo? Muchacha, ¿quién te rompió tu mucurita de barro? Fue Pedro quien me ayudó, ¿pa' qué me hiciste llamarlo? Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. No, no, no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Mamá, mamá, no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. No, no, no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Es que no puedo con ella, mamá, no puedo con ella. Te voy a enseñar cómo nace un amor, por si tú no lo sabes. Poco a poco mis anhelos jugarán con tus desvelos, llegarán llevándote calor. Igual que mariposa que se posa en la flor, yo te acariciaré. Poco a poco las promesas, poco a poco las caricias, despacito las sentirás, despacito mía serás, mía, mía serás, siempre mía, siempre, siempre mía, mía serás, siempre mía. Igual que mariposa que se posa en la flor, yo te acariciaré. Poco a poco las promesas, poco a poco las caricias, despacito, las sentirás, despacito, mía serás, mía, mía serás, siempre mía, siempre, siempre mía, mía serás, mía. lo soñaré. ¿Hasta cuándo, cuándo, cuándo tú me beses otra vez y me quieras como ayer? Quiero oírte decir que me quieres aún, pues mi vida sin ti ya no es nada para mí. Dime cuándo volverás, dime cuándo, 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 y besándome dirás, no nos dejaremos más.
Please welcome back Gabriela Gomez.
Hello, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. And I know that we're trying to, particularly for our next guests on stage, there are votes momentarily, so we're trying to make sure we get to our members and respect the time that they need to get back to the Hill. So if we could have folks sit please, thank you. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the CHCI Chair, Representative Charlie Gonzalez. He was first elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1998, representing Texas 20 Congressional District in San Antonio. Yay! He comes from very strong and politically active bloodlines, as his father, former Representative Henry B., as we've known him, represented the same district for 37 years and is one of the founding members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in 1976. And I can't go without saying this, but I had the good fortune of working just a few doors down from the congressman. And as I mentioned him recently, and as Secretary Solis also mentioned, he will be very much missed in Congress next year, but we look forward to following what is yet to come. So Chairman, Congressman Gonzalez, I welcome you to the stage.
Gabby, thank you very much. And we are going to be called for votes in a few minutes, so I don't want to rush through this. And there are a couple of things that I do need to say. First of all, to Gabby, I have followed her career in the 14 years that I've been here. She's made it incredibly proud. To Secretary Solis, Hilda already knows that we lamented on one hand, when she was appointed Secretary of Labor, because we've missed her so much in the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and the entire Congress, but she's made such a tremendous difference. So thank you for your sacrifice and your contribution. Hilda, you've been incredible. You've been an inspiration to us all. To Lori Montenegro, Congressman Sylvester Reyes wanted me to ask you only one question with your remarks about the Redskins. Who are the Redskins? Anyway. To Madam Ambassador, to my colleagues, Lucille and to Nydia, what can I say? That was an incredibly powerful performance with important lessons that were, again, shared with you. And we're hoping for all the young people, and especially Latinas, these are more than just role models, but these are people that want to help you. Again, it's about opening those particular doors. I'm going to take 1 second. Congressman Ruben Hinojosa is going to follow me, and if I make us late for votes, I'm sure he'll never forgive me. But I think it is important. As the three panelists were telling you about the role of women and such, I have to tell you that my father's career, 50 years in public office, 37 in the House of Representatives, the first Latino elected to the House of Representatives from this great state of Texas, would not have been possible without an incredibly strong and talented Latina, my mother. And that's a generational thing in many ways. But I think my father would have never made it without my mom. I would have never made it without my sisters. And it's always going to be about family, friends, and supporters. And that is going to be such an incredible, incredible lesson for all of us, never to forget the most important people in our lives. And usually they're all there under that particular one roof. The other thing I want to say about elected office, and Bob Garcia will tell you about this, my father was first elected to the city council, just like Lucille's father. And when he was elected to that city council, he could walk into the city hall chambers, but his children could not go to certain San Antonio public swimming pools. Think about that. You can be an elected official, and what he did was change that circumstance as soon as he got there. To my colleagues, Lucille and Nydia, just incredible individuals, I will tell you a real quick story. Sometimes we vote, it's 2:30 in the morning. A lot of us will walk home. It was late, obviously, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We had a discussion. Wow, you know, you're going home, anything can happen in a big city and such. And someone said, don't you wish you had Albio Cedas, Congressman Cedas, walking with you home? Because Albio looks like a Chicago Bears linebacker, you know, 6'5" and such. I said, Albio, I want Nydia to walk with me. I am grateful for the vision of our founders and those who have been a part of this organization for 35 great years. Today, more than 7,500 Latino leaders across the country are alumni of the CHCI and serve in elected office, guide mission-driven nonprofits, run their own businesses, and work in Fortune 100 companies. They are the embodiment of our founders' vision and a great part of what makes of modern America so strong. There are many people that help make CHCI the premier organization that it is today. I want to say special thanks to the board of directors and my colleagues in Congress who serve either on the board or the advisory council. These individuals are critical to CHCI's success today. They are the voices and the advocates that propel CHCI by developing the next generation of Latino leaders to ensure a stronger America. With our board, advisory council, and partners, CHCI has grown from our 4 fellows in 1981 to serving nearly 1,700 students annually. To all of you, thank you so very much. Now joining us this afternoon to introduce this year's Distinguished Alumnus Medallion Award, please welcome one of our most renowned educational development champions and my esteemed colleague, Congressman Ruben Hinojosa. Congressman Hinojosa is a proud and hardworking member of the House Committee on Education and Labor, where he serves as the chairman of the Subcommittee on Higher Education and Workforce Training. And when we take the House back, he again will assume the chairmanship of that particular committee. He also serves on the House Committee on Financial Services. He is a leading advocate for CHCI and its programs. Please welcome Congressman Ruben Hinojosa.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Gonzalez. I am delighted to join all of you here this afternoon, but I am honored to follow the great Latina leaders that have been introduced, starting with Dolores Huerta, Gabriela Gomez, Laurie Hernandez, Lily Eskelsen, Hilda Solis, Lucille Roybal-Allard, Nydia Velázquez, and of course our ambassador to El Salvador, Mari Carmen Aponte. What wonderful, great, wonderful examples of what can be done by these ladies who have been making this program so interesting and certainly have given us a lot of encouragement that we have made a lot of progress, but that there is still a lot to be done. I'm very proud to have the honor of introducing the 2012 Distinguished Alumnus Medallion Award. I say that because as an active CHCI board member and someone who cares deeply about this organization, I take tremendous pride in growing the number of CHCI alumni we have in high-level positions across this country. From elected officials to administration appointees, to lawyers, to corporate executives, to judges, and the list goes on and on. CHCI was formed in 1978 to address the lack of Hispanics on Capitol Hill and create a pipeline of talented Latinos to enter the fields of public service and government. 35 years later, CHCI has become so much more than that, creating future leaders that are impacting all areas of our society. Listening to Lucille Roybal-Allard tell us a little bit about how it was founded and her experiences and what she saw. I want to share with you that it is most interesting that they started with just a few $100s to get the organization started. When we came to Congress in 1996, and I'm talking of my good, great friend Sylvester Reyes and I in 1996, the budget was something like $2 million a year. Today, we're very proud that it has grown to $8 million. Great, great progress. I'm happy to say that CHCI Alumni Association chapters all around the country are getting stronger with a growing presence in Arizona, Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, and many other cities. With each fellowship and internship class CHCI graduates, and with each ready-to-lead student and scholarship recipient CHCI touches, this group gets stronger, and the impact CHCI is making is felt even more by the families and communities around the country. As we commemorate 35 years and launch Hispanic Heritage Month, honoring our past, celebrating our strength, and committing to our future, the Distinguished Alumnus Award is one of the highlights of our events this week. Each year, the CHCI Alumni Association Executive Board of Directors selects one of their own, embodies the CHCI vision, mission, and leadership model. Our 2012 Distinguished Alumnus was a CHCI during the period of 1993-1994 Public Policy Fellow, and today presides as the judge of Bexar County Court number 8 in San Antonio, Texas. Let's give a big round of applause to Judge Liza Rodriguez. It is unfortunate, due to health reasons, that Judge Rodriguez is unable to join us in person today. We are proud to recognize her with this distinguished award, and we have a special video tribute followed by her taped acceptance speech from San Antonio, Texas. Please, let's look at the video.
Liza Rodriguez is a woman of vision and steadfast resolve. One of 5 children, she was born and raised in Laredo, Texas. After graduating high school, she earned money for college working at a title and abstract company and as a part-time waitress. Excelling at her studies, she was admitted as a Meadows Excellence in Training Fellow at the University of North Texas. Later, Liza was accepted into CHCI's prestigious Fellows Program. It was a life-changing experience that propelled Liza into her legal career. While in Washington, she was a legal analyst with the Mexican-American Legal Defense Education Fund. She went on to St. Mary's School of Law and was licensed to practice in 1997. She later began her tenure as a Bexar County Assistant District Attorney. Liza worked tirelessly, representing adult and child victims of crime. Her efforts gained Liza the esteem of colleagues and various law enforcement agencies. She was later hired by the County Court at Law judges as their chief administrator. Liza decided to take on her next career endeavor. She ran for office and officially became Judge Rodriguez on January 1st, 2011. Liza immediately took steps to improve public safety. She submitted a grant request for a DWI court, which would provide supervision for persons charged with subsequent DWI offenses. And she's working to expand the existing adult drug court program and develop alternatives to incarceration. Whatever the case or challenge, Liza is known for the fairness and respect she shows all she encounters. Yet with all of her professional accomplishments, it is her role as mother to Alina and Aiden that makes Liza most happy. She is a valuable asset to her family, to her profession, and to the community. CHCI is proud to recognize Liza Rodriguez as its 2012 Distinguished Alumnus.
Good afternoon, CHCI members and conference attendees. I want to thank you so much for this very prestigious honor. I accept it with humility and with sincere gratitude to this organization. In the summer of 1993, CHCI took a chance on a young girl from a small border town in South Texas. Now, with the opportunities that CHCI has given me, along with opportunities that have come after that fellowship, I have the confidence to take action when I see the need for change. And this brings me to one of my favorite quotes by Mahatma Gandhi, and that is, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." This was a quote that guided my decision to run for elected office, and it's a quote that I am mindful of on a daily basis. And I hope that you will be too. Be that change that you hope to see. So again, I'd like to thank the organization so much for the opportunity. I'd like to thank my family for their unyielding support and love always. Muchísimas gracias y que Dios los bendiga.
Another round of applause, please. In conclusion, I want to thank you and ask you to enjoy the rest of the CHCI Public Policy Conference. Have a great day.
Don't forget to follow CHCI on Facebook. Alert all your friends. Like us today, and don't miss any of CHCI's conference and gala webcasts live, courtesy of AT&T. Also, CHCI is pleased to partner with the Smithsonian Latino Center. Together, we are working to develop and build a physical home on the National Mall celebrating the cultural richness and diversity of our Latino community. We hope that you will join us tonight at our annual Arts and Culture reception to rejoice in the heritage of our entire nation, 6:30 to 8:30 at the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian.
Enseñar cómo nace un amor, por si tú no lo sabes. Poco a poco mis anhelos jugarán con tus desvelos, llegarán llevándote calor. Igual que mariposa que se posa en la flor, yo te acariciaré. Poco a poco las promesas, poco a poco las